we feeling this morning? Why did we not enjoy breakfast? It's like, how are we feeling? Yeah. Feeling good? Did we enjoy the sessions yesterday? Do we remember to take no for what? Take no as a what? What did we? Not an answer. Because we're here to let them know our priorities and our needs, right? And when we let them know and they say, no, 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 we take no as a what? As a question, not an answer. So are you excited about day 2 of the youth pre-conference? Are you excited? If you are, then those sitting at the back, can you please help us fill the spaces excitingly, with energy? Just come fill the spaces here so we don't have empty spaces up front with that excitement and the energy. No dullness. Do you need music to walk? We can give you the music if it helps. Or Devin, if they need music to come to their spaces. Let's just fill the front rows. There are a number of pre-conferences happening today, so we are not going to wait. We're just going to get right into it because there's an exciting section happening this morning, and I'm sure you would enjoy it. So just to get all of us in the mood, let's just fill these front rows.
OK, thank you, Essie. Je voulais revenir sur ce qu'elle était en train de dire, mais en français.
I wanted to go back to what you were saying because we don't have the simultaneous translation. We hope you had a wonderful night, that you got well rested. Today there are many activities that will be led, many pre-conferences. So we will get started even with the little number of people we have here in the room. But please be seated. Be seated. And let's listen to some music, feel at ease, and the team that will present the plenary session is getting ready, but today's journey will be excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you. Come up forward. Allez.
Hand over to an incredible team who is going to take us through a plenary session on intersectionality in adolescents and youth SRH. That's exciting, right? Because I think yesterday some of us went into different breakout sessions about intersectionality. I think we had about two breakout sessions that revolved around intersectionality. And so this plenary really will put us in the mood, and the pre-conference also to set us in the mood for the main conference, right? And so to just learn as much as possible, learn from each other, share our ideas, and take those ideas into the main conference. Are you excited? So then join me, since some of us refuse to move, with hand of applause. Welcome Joy and Richard.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Joy Muntali. I'm from Malawi, and I'm representing the We Trust Youth Initiative. And I'm here with my friend Richard.
Also from the Youth Hub.
Okay. Okay. So our session today, from the grand introduction, is about intersectionality. And the topic of our session is who is and who is not here. So as we recall yesterday, the room was full. There were so many people in the room. Then today, so many people are not here. So if you saw somebody that was here and they're not here, please invite them and tell them that we're having a session and you're not here. We want you to be here. Okay, so this session has been organized by 5 organizations. That's the We Trust Youth Initiative, Youth Hub, Choice for Youth, and Gender Health, and the YP Foundation. And yeah. Okay, we can give them a round of applause. This will be an exciting session. I'm excited already, and it'll be very interactive. So please, you have to drop your phones at some point and close the laptops so that we can all talk and we can interact as young people in the room and also share our experiences. So the objective of the session is to bring us together and to reflect on the different activities that we do and how intersectionality affects our work. So basically, it's to enable youth participants in this room to reflect on, identify, and analyze the different and changing experiences, needs, and interests of women, girls, boys, and those from the LGBTQI community, and how our work intersects. And also, at the end and also in the middle of the session, we'll share practical tools that we can use in our work to make sure that we're not neglecting people and we're not being inclusive in our work, and we're making sure that everyone is represented. So welcome, and feel comfortable, and feel free to ask us any questions, and feel free to ask us for any of the resources that we'll be sharing. And before we proceed, we just want to get the sense of who is in the room and how you introduce yourselves. So we're going to share a Menti. I hope we can all say it. Okay, Richard.
Yes, so before you put down your phones, we just want you to use 3 words to describe or introduce yourself. So just scan the QR code and let us know. I describe myself as, and then put in those 3 keywords. As my colleague mentioned, it's about intersectionality, and we are all coming from different places, different backgrounds, different positions, different organizations, and so this will be the beginning. Let's know who you are, introduce yourself with those 3 keywords. So let's say in the next 1 minute, take time and key in those words. Okay, we're already getting some feedback. 3 keywords. I describe myself as. So we can go through. Privileged. That's one of the keywords we are seeing there. Describe myself as a feminist. Creative. Nigerian. When Nigeria is mentioned and then there's a Ghanaian holding the mic, I'm tempted, but I'll just skip it. Passionate. I describe myself as an advocate, as grateful, gratitude, as human. I see fabulous. I see program manager. Also description by position, title. Brilliant. Cisgender. A youth entrepreneur. Majestic. So these are keywords coming up. I could go on and on, but it just shows that in this room, there are different people, and how you may describe someone or think about them or have a reflection about them may be different from how they actually see themselves. And so that also really fit into, let's say, topic for today, or discussion about intersectionality, how we are all different, and how if we are designing programs or initiatives, campaign, whatever it is, we cannot always assume who people are. And here, there are so many different words that if you had asked me, I could not have imagined describing, people in different ways. So thank you for sharing those 3 keywords. And based on that, it will lead us to our first video, where we want to understand a bit about what intersectionality is, based on Kimberly Cranshaw's view. So please, we can go to the video now.
Intersectionality is just a metaphor for understanding the ways that multiple forms of inequality or disadvantage sometimes compound themselves, and they create obstacles that often are not understood within conventional ways of thinking about anti-racism or feminism or whatever social justice advocacy structures we have. Intersectionality isn't so much a grand theory, it's a prism for understanding certain kinds of problems. African American girls are 6 times more likely to be suspended than white girls. That's probably a race and a gender problem. It's not just a race problem, it's not just a gender problem. So I encourage people to think about how the convergence of race stereotypes or gender stereotypes might actually play out in the classroom, between teachers and students, between students and other students, between students in and administrators and commit themselves to understanding that as a way of intervening and providing equal educational opportunity for all students, regardless of their identities. Identity isn't simply a self-contained unit. It is a relationship between people in history, people in communities, people in institutions. So schools do a good job when they understand that and when they commit themselves to curricular development, to opportunities in the school for all students to understand the histories that have brought us to this particular moment. You can't change outcomes without understanding how they've come about. So independent schools can take the lead on that to be responsive to their student populations and to the communities out of which the students come.
So that's our first video, and I hope it did provide some perspective or understanding of what our big word here or key term intersectionality is. And it reflects back to the three key words that we also used about the differences that we all do have. Our second video, where is our MC for today? Essie. It's from Essie. She has been here throughout today and yesterday, and she's also sharing her own experience. I think when the Yield Hub had this video, Essie had no idea it would be showing at this event where she will be emceeing. And so she also described her own experience as a young leader in the SRHR space and what she will say is the most significant challenges she faces in her work when it comes to her sexual reproductive health right leadership journey, particularly as it relates to Ghana. So our next video is from Essie Pra, Ghana.
Personally, the part of the research that really resonated was the bit about the double burden of being young and female. You know, especially for us young female leaders in the SRHR landscape, living and working in Africa, it's a complex dynamics or a complex mix of expectations of who a young woman is supposed to be like, who a matured female leader is supposed to be like, and then who a serious, decent corporate woman is supposed to look like or be like. And so, for example, for most of us, like me, we started off volunteering within the SRHR landscape, and you are most of the time still seen as the young, calm girl, and it's difficult sometimes to transition, unlike the our male counterparts who can just transition through quickly. And so in maybe serious career progression conversations or even requests for career salary increase or salary conversations, then there are either direct questions about why you are being so financially conscious because you are not married, you're not taking care of kids, and either your boyfriend or even if you're married, your husband will bear the financial responsibility, and you're supposed to be more understanding of whatever financial challenges or whatever may be going on. Meanwhile, for a male counterpart, he would be seen as he's young, he needs money to marry, he might become corrupt or enter into fraudulent activities if he is not given his due or given good financial compensation. And as a young female leader, you're expected to be more understanding, more nurturing, more calm, and anything contrary, if you demand too much, you're seen as either arrogant or being overly confident, and it can hinder people's perception of you, can hinder your progression.
All right. That was a great video. I think our facilitator did a great work. A round of applause for Essie. All right, so this session basically is trying to help us understand and improve our understanding of how intersectionality affects our work in sexual reproductive health rights, as well as in adolescent health. So please pay attention. We'll have a practical session soon. But before that, I would like to invite Anna from Engender Health to share what the Gender, Youth, and Social Inclusion Analysis Framework and Toolkit, and to help us really understand how all those intersect in our work and in sexual reproductive health rights. Anna.
Thank you, Joy. Hi everyone, I'm Anna from Engender Health, and we wanted to share with you today one example. And the stress here is this is one example. There are many organizations, and you'll see at the end of the session all of the different resources we have compiled for you. But one way to look at intersectionality and how it plays out in our everyday lives and how we program, how we think, how we implement, how we monitor, how we evaluate is looking at things from the source of power. And so at Engender Health, our GYSI, or Gender, Youth, and Social Inclusion Analysis Framework, very long title, but all you need to know is that it centers around power. Who has power? And how does power play out in access to a variety of things? So we have 4 key questions that we'd like to share with you all as you do your work. One is, who has what in your context? Second, who is valued for what? Third, who does what? And finally, who decides? And this is really done in the context of these 4 different domains or areas. And this we find really important because oftentimes we're in our little box of SRH services or advocacy, and we have to remember that we all live diverse, unique, and intersecting lives. So the 4 areas are assets and resources, and this goes beyond sexual and reproductive health and rights, practices, roles, and participation, legal rights and status, and of course, we know the 4th very important, knowledge, beliefs, and perceptions. And so the next part of this session, which I'm going to pass over to my colleagues, Yanamik and Vinita, are going to take you through a case story example. And keep this in mind, the idea of power in this scenario and these questions of who gets to decide, who has what, who's valued for what, and who does what. So over to our colleagues.
Thanks, Anna. Yeah. Is this on? Yes, okay, thanks. Yeah, thanks, Anna. Does anyone have questions about this framework so far? No? Okay, great. So essentially, we want to have a little practical segment as part of the session so that we can take everything that we've talked about so far and that we will continue talking about for the next few minutes. But we can also have a little exercise component of it so you get to think about intersectionality in a more practical way and think about the way that it impacts your work in the SRHR space. So we have a case study that you can all reflect on. And I'll just read it out for those in the back who may not be able to see. So imagine, well, I mean, you don't have to imagine. It's unfortunately very true that young people lack access to SRHR information and services, including services like quality abortion care in your country. And so as a youth advocate who wants to change this, imagine that you're invited to take part in a donor-funded project with some strict guidelines, and due to limited resources, you can only choose to take part in one of these initiatives. So Yanamik will read out the options that you have, and you can think about which one you would go for and why.
Yes, so due to the strict guidelines and like how the donor is steering you, and you have limited resources, you can pick only one of these 3. So you could either go for training health services on youth affirmative services, but the training will only focus on how to provide services to cisgender young people. Or you can go for option 2, which is supporting a project that focuses on safe abortion care for internally displaced young women. Or the 3rd one is more an advocacy-related project, while you try to lobby your Ministry of Education to advocate for the inclusion of comprehensive sexuality education into the public school system for older adolescents. So just for yourself, take like 2 minutes to think, okay, if I have to choose one of these 3, which one would I go for? And then just write it down on a piece of paper or remember it. And while you are doing this, you might already have questions or thoughts or concerns. That's okay, just hold them for now, and then we're gonna reflect and discuss together later. So just giving you 2 minutes to think about this. Can I see some hands of people that are done? Okay. I think almost. One more minute? Yeah.
Okay, I think we can move on to the next part of it then. So if we can have the next slide. Thank you. Yes. Okay, great. So everyone has by now hopefully identified one of the options that they're most likely to go for out of the three that we had presented. So since that was a more individual activity, we would like for all of you to share amongst the tables that you're sitting in. If you can share amongst your group which option you went for, why you chose that, and then you also have some questions to help you through this conversation. Was there another initiative that maybe wasn't even an option out of what we listed that you thought could be more impactful for your context, the country that you work in, the populations that you work with, the young people and the intersectionalities that they come with? How did going through that selection process make you feel? So was there something that made you uncomfortable? Was there something that you felt was challenging, and why you felt that way? And how did your own identity, including some of the identities that we also put out on the Mentimeter, how did those influence your decision-making process? So if we can just we'll have about 5 to 7 minutes for each table to just share amongst each other. And if you have any questions, we can come along and answer those as well for you.
Yeah, then just put your hand up and one of us will come. Put like the music on maybe while people were working, but like not too loud. So.
Across the world, we're not the future, we're the present. Invest in us and you will see the world is changing. Because our bodies and the future we hold it. We want for you to see that everybody can win. Could it be education or contraception? Everyone will always be here to sing. We are family and we are planning to go around the world telling everyone that we demand a voice. We are family and we are planning to go around the world telling everyone that we demand a choice. On the ground, in every area, we're the ones to make a world a better place. We want the best, we want the way. There is something for a future so bright. Because our bodies, and the future we hold in. We want for you to see that everybody can win. Could it be education or contraception? Cause the boys we always be fine. We are family and we are planning to go around the world telling everyone that we demand a voice. We are family and we are planning to go around the world telling everyone that we demand a choice.
We gon' climb up and then rise up. Won't keep our eyes shut, we ain't got enough. I know you tired of seeing things the same way, but in time you realize that things change. We the demographic dividend. You see the work that we putting in. I'ma stay true to me and use my opportunity to show you how to build a community with unity.
உன் வாழ்வு உந்தன் கையில், எதிர்காலம் உன் கண் முன்னில், மனதையும் உடலையும் பாதுகாப்பாய். வேண்டும் வேண்டாம் என்று சொல்ல உனக்கு மட்டும் உரிமை உண்டு. தேவையில்லா குழப்பம் நீக்க வெவ்வேறு பல வழிகளும் உண்டு. உதவக்கரங்கள் உண்டு, உன் வந்து சொல்வாய் என்று. to be seen across the world. We're not the future, we're the present. Invest in us and you will see the world is changing.
Because our bodies are bodies and the future we hold it. We want for you to see that everybody can win. Could it be education or contraception? Everyone will always be here to sing.
We are family and we are planning to go around the world telling everyone that we demand a voice. We are family and we are planning to go around the world telling everyone that we demand a choice. We on the ground in every area. We're the ones to make a world a better place. We want the best, we want the way, and there's something for a future so bright.
Because our bodies, and the future we holding. We want for you to see that everybody can win. Could it be education or contraception? Cause the boys we always be fine.
We are family and we are planning to go around the world telling everyone that we demand a voice. We are family and we are planning.
All right. We see everybody chatting. It's great. Just take one more minute to round up your conversations. Then we'll reflect together a bit.
We gon' climb up and then rise up. Won't keep our eyes shut. We ain't got enough. I know you tired of seeing things the same way, but in time you realize that things change. We the demographic dividend. You see the work that we putting in. I'ma stay true to me and use my opportunity to show you how to build a community with unity.
உன் வாழ்வு உந்தன் கையில் எதிர்காலம் உன் கண் முன்னில் மனதையும் உடலையும் பாதுகாப்பார் வேண்டும் வேண்டாம் என்று சொல்ல உனக்கு மட்டும் உரிமை உண்டு தேவையில்லா குழப்பம் நீக்க வெவ்வேறு பல வழிகளும் உண்டு உதவக்கரங்கள் உண்டு முன் வந்து சொல்வாய் என்று உதவக்கரங்கள் உண்டு நீ முன் வந்து சொல்வாய் என்று இன்றே முடிவு செய் உடல்நலத்தை உயர்த்தி வை இன்றே முடிவு செய்.
Okay, if we can have everybody's attention back, please. Thank you. It was really nice to see all of you so engaged and talking to each other. I hope you had good conversations. So I'm very curious actually to hear from the room. Is there a group or somebody that wants to share a bit of their discussions with us? Can you raise your hand maybe, then we'll come down with the mic. Who had an interesting conversation? Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning. A lot of people on our table went for the first option based on the fact that we were looking at the service providers from a two-angle way, because if a service provider is trained, especially with around issues of VCAT, value clarification and attitude transformation, they are able to do both education and service delivery. And for us, reaching the last mile was very important, because we feel that if education is done and service is sought, there should be someone who provides that service. And service providers, when trained, are able to do that. The second option was very contextual, because for most of us, we were not coming from, it's not because we don't have conflicts, but once you are not in that context, it is like you are leaving it's a minority group. Not, we are also not discriminating against them, but we felt that indirectly, if service providers are trained, a minority group will seek service from them in the first category. And based on how you do your education very well, they won't turn them away. The third option was also not our priority because policy change takes time, and governments change in most of our context from where we are coming from. And we were looking at like short-term action, who can give us the two-way goal we were looking for. It was more of education. If education is done, yes, young people, adolescents can seek service, but then who is there to do? And then looking at the second one, when we were going through the process, like we said, we took into consideration a lot of things like our own context. Eventually, we decided that an integrated approach would have been ideal. So all the three would be best, but power was then, we just had to choose one. So we went for the first option.
Thanks, yeah, and I think a very interesting conclusion, right? Like, hey, one of these separately actually wouldn't work. We need a combined approach and having all of them. I'm curious to hear from somebody else. Yes, I already see a hand. Okay, great. And could you also reflect a bit on the reflection questions, like how did the selection process make you feel?
All right. Hi, everyone. Comfort Chizinga from Malawi. Okay, so funny enough, me and my colleague, after we went through the question, the case study, we ended up picking the same one. We both picked the third one, which is talking more or less on the policy, Minister of Education, CSE. And through our discussion, we agreed on one thing, that, even in her country, she's from Uganda, I'm from Malawi, we have CSE in the schools, but it's not as comprehensive. It's on the surface. And you find that at the end of the day, it's not one of the priority subjects. So we figured reaching that young person with enough information is key, because at the end of the day, even if a healthcare provider is not well trained, but if I have the information, I'll find the service. And we also thought the second option was a little bit too biased towards one area. But for CSE, it's like you're covering everything. You're giving this young person all the information that's necessary. Because at the end of the day, even all providers are trained, even services are everywhere. But if as a young person, I don't understand how that service is important to me, how I am supposed to, if I need it, how I am supposed to get that service, we haven't done anything. So we thought educating that young person comprehensively, we thought that was key. Secondly, just one last point. I know I've eaten up much of the time. We also agreed on need for collaboration as well as harmonization of different policies. I was giving an example that in my country, the Minister of Education has a policy that says young people should access sexual reproductive health services, but 100 meters away from the school. And then you find that the Minister of Health is also trying to push for these services to get closer to the young people. So we're saying these are two conflicting policies, because at the end of the day, we have given them the information, but then for them to actually access the service, it's slightly harder. So we thought collaboration of different stakeholders as well as harmonization of policies would also really help. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks for sharing your comprehensive reflection. And I think a key word that we heard here was also bias, right? Like the interventions are biased, but also so are we. So it's very important that we do reflect on these things. I think the microphone is already brought to the back. Thank you.
Thank you. This is Visar from Pakistan. So we are 4 at our table, and initially 3 of us are agreed on the final point 3, and one of our colleague friend agreed on the option number 2. The reason behind that option 3, that we all discussed and think that investing in the education is like a seed. When you invest one seed, then you will get more. It's investing in the generations. So all the other 2 options are the short-term projects. Maybe we cannot, we can get effect, but it's not a long-lasting. But when you invest in the education and provide the quality education and information to your generation, then it will go on. And especially as its option says that it will include in the curriculum. So once the curriculum updated, so it will go for the generations. And for the our friend who support the second option, she was with the view that because the women are dying due to the unsafe abortion care, and there is a risk of a woman for mortality and morbidity. So they, for the immediate effect, we can also think about the option number 2. So that was our discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I already see some more hands. I think we have time for one more. Yes.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. This is Jaya Jagi from Pakistan representing YP at Asia Pacific. So me and my colleague, we discussed on the options and we both chose the third one, working with Ministry of Education. But it was really interesting to hear from her that in her country, the first two options are relatively difficult to implement as well. Rather, in my country, it's comparatively easier rather than the third option. Also, we chose the third option because as per our experience, we realized that this is needed and it has huge impact and rather better impact than the first two options. That's why we thought of working on this particular project, because it will give a better reach and a good strength to the advocacy we are already doing. Also, we realized that probably working with the government, for example, in my context, we would not be using some terminologies like CSE, rather we would be using LSB, life skills based education. So it would still not very easy to do. That's why we felt ambitious through the process, but also anxious that probably it would take a lot of our efforts. Also, we talked about one thing that there was another initiative in her country that's similar to it, but probably she thinks that that can be a better option than out of these three. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And also to the rest of you, because I'm sure you also had very engaging discussions as well. So I think some of the points that we wanted to give back to you from this, I think what we saw from all of the discussions is that none of these options is ideal, and also context really matters. And what we saw in all of the options that we had, that they were all actually siloing needs of certain groups of young people instead of looking at young people as a group with intersectional identities and needs, and looking at the whole group. And of course, also the target group wasn't involved in designing any of this, which is really, really important. We need to start with the young people themselves and ask them what do you need? And also, of course, there was the element of power that we were speaking about before, because this was all sort of pre-cooked by a certain donor that wanted to steer us in a certain direction. And we see that way too often in our SRHR programs. This is the reality. So also when we do our advocacy work, it's important to address the theme of intersectionality and how important it is to do our work successfully. And what we also reflected on a little bit is to reflect on who we are and what are our identities and how does that influence our advocacy work. So I hope you can, think more about this and also take this along in the coming days, not just today when we're here with each other, but also at the main conference when we'll be speaking to all these INGOs and donors and policymakers who actually have the power that we are talking about. And then I think we'll be handing back over to Richard and Joy.
Was that session exciting for you? Yeah? Okay, prepare to be more excited. I would like to invite Aman, who will give us spoken word on sexual reproductive health rights and intersectionality and the role of young people, the role that we can take up. So please listen carefully, because this is the call to action for our session. Thank you. Aman.
Hello, am I audible out there? Okay, great. So, namaste from India. Myself, Aman Chugh, and I am from Engender Health, and I am here with a poem. And I'll try to reach out to you from stage. And if you feel it, do let me know with the claps at the end or maybe in between. Just joking. It would be okay if you don't. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. So I'm here with a poem, and the title of this poem is "Who Am I?" Right? So, guess what? I am not what you see. What you see is a minor part of me. Age, race, sex, gender, marital status, nationality, spirituality, ability are some broad sections. Every section contributes to my individuality. I am defined through a unique set of these sectional identities. Some identities bring me privilege, some lead to oppression. At some times, I feel I'm taken ahead, but other parts of me act as obstruction. I believe at some point, some level, something similar happens to you, but at the same time, I understand that being another unique individual, it would be way more different than I do. Fun fact, Vatsyayan Samhita, widely renowned as Kama Sutra, originated in India. It is worldwide accepted, read, and used. And here I am, a young, unmarried, educated Indian woman. And for me, use of term sex is still a taboo. And sexual and reproductive education, that subject is a far-fetched too. I have questions. I have questions related to my body, my health. I have questions related to my body, my health, and those parts which I'm not supposed to be saying out loud in front of you. So I don't know what is safe, what is risky. I don't know. I don't know what is safe, what is risky. What should I do? I need the answer. But to whom shall I look up to? My teachers? They still skip chapters on reproduction. My parents? No way. There is a lot more uneasiness and hesitation. My siblings? No way. I can't do that. I can't risk being subject to suspicion or investigation. And my friends? Oh, leave them out. They are way too confused and full of confusion. It's tough for me. It's tough for me and make me wonder how this situation would be for other gender identities. Now, undesired, unintended, unwanted situation occur due to lack of SRH information. Do you know this? Worldwide, 15% of all unsafe abortions take place among young girls under the age of 20. If someone like I, who is educated and unmarried woman, were to be pregnant, I would be stigmatized. I would be stigmatized. Forget about getting an unbiased quality, high quality care. Reaching out to friends, family, or even service providers would be a nightmare. It gives me goosebumps. It gives me goosebumps to even think about how difficult this situation would be if the girl is adolescent, uninformed, uneducated, specially abled, or comes from a marginalized community. In such times, empathetic, non-judgmental, unbiased care and respect of our rights is most needed. It hurts when I see, hear, or read how badly some of us are judged, ignored, left unheard, unattended, or ill-treated. Our struggles and level of oppressions vary, individual to individual. We need to respect and accept all and practice active inclusion. Especially while partnering with youth. While partnering with youth, we should make it more meaningful participation. Don't choose them. Don't choose them because they are young and solve the purpose, but because they bring unique experiences, ideas, understanding to the table. Let's practice. Let's practice looking through a lens which reflects our various identities, and we shall not be defined by one. Let's practice looking through a lens which reflects our various identities, and we are not defined by just one, because as I said earlier, I am not what you see, but there is a lot more to know about me. With this, I take a moment to introduce myself properly. I am Aman Chugh, 29 years old, able-bodied, cisgender, heterosexual, Hindu, Indian, postgraduate, working, unmarried woman. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I reached out to you. Thank you so much. Handing over to you, Richard.
A round of applause again. That was a powerful, I will not describe it. Everyone felt it. Thank you so much for the poem and also reflecting a lot that we shared when we put the Mentimeter there. How do we describe ourselves? Who are we? What are the key words? And again, the session that also our colleagues shared, a case study, it just continues to reflect how different, we all are, how we all approach, whether programs, advocacy, even when donors also predefine what has to be done. But again, we hope that you are picking your own, what you have to pick up from the session, depending on your organization, where you work, and what you focus on. So thank you very much again for the very powerful point. Now we'll go into, finally, a group activity where we will have the opportunity to get to know some of the organizations, also putting together the session, what we do, and some of the various works that have been done. And you have the chance and opportunity to ask questions and find out more what these organizations are doing, some of the resources they do have, and hopefully how you may want to connect with some of us to learn more about our work. So Joy will just go through the various organizations where they will be in the room, and then feel free to walk to any of those organizations, hear a bit about their own work they do, projects, and resources they have in relation to some of the topics we've discussed today. Yeah.
Thank you, Richard. How many of us understand intersectionality now? Ooh, not so many. So our session wasn't that beneficial for you? You didn't understand a thing? Okay, so to help the rest of us understand intersectionality in our work, we have the 5 organizations sharing their resources and what we do and how we can best help you in your work. So the first one is YOUD. They will be talking about addressing gender and other social cultural discrimination that is perpetuated within SRHR initiatives. So that's David there. If you want to learn more about that, please visit him. And then the second one is We Trust Youth. That will be talking about implementing intergenerational collaboration to advance intersectionality at the national level. And that's Faith in the middle. See that fly woman in the middle? Yes, that's We Trust Youth. And then the third one is the YP Foundation. And they'll be talking about centering the lived experiences of adolescents and their intersecting identities into SRHR advocacy at all levels. And there they are, at the far end. You see them? The 3 jovial humans. Yes. And the fourth one is Choice. They'll be talking about bringing youth activism to the forefront and how to make it meaningful. So as a young person, if you think your work is not that meaningful, Choice will help you. And there they are. See them? They have a very great banner. Yeah. And then the last one is in gender health. And they'll be talking about collecting and using better data to systemically analyze multiple axes of inequality. You saw the GSI framework that Anna talked about. If you want to learn more about that, please go to In Gender Health table, they're there. And if you want to know how to do spoken word as well, a man will help you there. So, and now this is the time where you can choose the table that you want to go to and what you want to learn in the different tables, please. Let's start walking. It's a girly walk for a reason.